everyone, this is Eliza. Welcome back to Eliza's Bookshelf, or welcome if you're new. Today I am going to go over all of my July reads. Yes, another month, another wrap-up video, aka me trying to figure out everything that I read and trying to remember what exactly happened. So this month, July, kind of went by in a whirlwind. I can't believe it's over already. I can't believe it's August, but I was looking over the books that I read and I forgot a lot of them, so I had to refresh a little bit. It was kind of a mediocre reading month. There were a couple of good reads that were earlier on in the month, so the rest of the month was just okay. But yeah, let's get to it. As always, I will go over the books that I liked least and then leading up to the books that I liked the most. In July, I tried to not spend a lot of money, and I think I did pretty well. All the books that I got was just my book of the month picks and then also my Bookish Box subscription, and I didn't spend any more money outside of that. So a lot of the books that I read were either e-arcs or were on my Libby app, and then books that I already had at home. Maybe half of the books are not physical copies, so I'll put a picture up here. So number one is The Unmatched Speakers by Jackie Lau. And I got this off of NetGalley. I thought it was an interesting premise, like childhood friends to lovers. Overall, it was a big miss for me. I just didn't feel the connection between the two main characters. It felt like a sisterly, brotherly type of relationship, so I thought it was kind of weird. So in this book, we have Leora, who is an elementary school teacher or something, and then we have Neil, I believe that's his name. He is, I'm not sure what exactly he does, but he is her mother's friend's son. So kind of like a cousin through friends, but not really, they're not related. But yeah, they all take a week vacation to Canada because the parents got a cabin. They're all trying to reunite and have fun, reconnect again. So they haven't seen each other for a long time. The thing about Leora's mother is that she is very anti-relationship, anti-dating, which a lot of people are when you're younger, but in general, she has her own problems with relationships. So she's always pushing the idea onto Leora, like you don't need a man to be happy, you don't need to get married, just focus on your career. But Leora is of the mindset where like, I want my happily ever after, I want to get married, I want that boyfriend, whatever, right? And so she meets up here at the cabin. She's like the first one there, she thinks, but then she sees a person coming up and it's Neil. She is actually closer with Neil's brother when they were younger, but when she sees Neil, it's like this instant attraction. She's like, whoa, look at those forearms. Why is he so sexy? I don't know. I didn't like that part. This book too is also told in a single person point of view. We just get Leora's point of view, and I think that is kind of its downfall because we see her attraction to Neil and we just see Neil not communicating too much. I don't see his point of view and his thoughts. So I didn't really like that. I think it would have benefited a lot if it was dual point of view. They do have an attraction with each other, and the parents, her mom and like the aunties and stuff like that, are trying to separate them or scheme to get them not to be together. So that's the whole premise of the book. It was just okay. I feel like the characters were all pretty flat. I'm not very interested in any of the side characters. It does allude to like side character and his love life and maybe a sequel coming up, but I'm not too interested. The writing needs a little bit more development. Not that I'm a big writer and I know what I'm talking about, but this is kind of like the epitome of show, don't tell. There was a lot of telling and not enough showing what's going on, and I couldn't really connect with a lot of things. But yeah, so that was number one. I think I gave it like a 2-star. It was a little bit low, which I was really sad about because I think I have another book of Jackie Lau somewhere in my bookshelf downstairs. And then another thing, she's like an Asian author that I want to support, but I didn't really like. Second book is Booked on a Feeling by another Asian author. I got this from NetGalley as well. It released last month. It is also, I think, a childhood friends to lovers romance. We have Lizzie, who is now a lawyer. She's feeling very burnt out. She's trying to feel that magic again, and she decides to go back to Weldon, I believe, Weldon, California. I don't really know where that is, even though I live in California. I've lived in Northern California, Central California, and Southern California, but I don't exactly know where Weldon is. I have to Google it later. Anyway, so she goes back to Weldon, California because that's where her childhood friend is, Jack. So in comes Jack. I think he we know right away that he is super in love with Lizzie, but he's never told her. Anyways, he's trying to figure out his life. He is trying to be an accountant, but right now he's running a bookstore with his family in Walden. And he's always had this feeling that he's not good enough for his friend Lizzie, who's like a hotshot lawyer or whatever, right? But so we see him dealing with that. While they're together in Weldon, Lizzie figures out that she maybe feels more for her friend Jack. So there's that. I think it's super cute. The thing is, the writing was done in a certain way that it felt kind of childish. Their different thoughts, you know. She's like a lawyer. I think they're in their 30s, but she's a lawyer and he's figuring out his career. But the way they talk seems kind of YA to me. Other thing too, even though it is a dual point of view, I think it's written in a certain way that you don't feel there are two voices. They talk kind of similarly, but putting all that aside, it actually is a kind of cute story. They realize their feelings with each other early on, so most of the book is them trying to navigate their new relationship, going from friends to not friends. And it basically is a heartwarming story about just following your dreams, right? Jack is feeling like he's stuck in his hometown, in his bookstore with his family, but he really does want to be this accountant, and he's doing all the necessary steps, doing all these interviews, traveling far, and getting to what he wants. And it's also with Lizzie on her side too, just trying to figure out what exactly she wants, you know, because at this job as a lawyer, she doesn't like all the, what does she really complain about? She complained about timestamps and stuff like that. I don't know, a bunch of paperwork that she did not like. So she's trying to figure out what makes her happy. And it all works out in the end. So that was cute. Unfortunately, just the writing style and a lot of lawyer jargon that I didn't really get into. That's why it's one of my lower rated books this month. So unfortunately, another Asian author that I wanted to support. Next one. Oh, the next one, The Echo Wife. The Echo Wife is a book that I saw on Libby that seemed like a science fiction thriller that I would get into. So it's basically, and sorry, I forget all the names right now and I can't be bothered to look it up because my phone is right there and all my information is on my phone. But The Echo Wife, it is about a cloning thing. So The Echo Wife, it sounded pretty interesting, but the whole book, it was kind of like not very fast paced. It was very slow going. A lot of the decisions the characters made, I was like, what are you doing? But okay, so putting the names aside, you have this scientist, right? Or a scientist couple, but the main scientist is very genius. She has her own family issues growing up. Her father is very, very strict and not very open in terms of feelings and emotions. It's just like, here, let me talk to you about science and that's it, right? And so she has family problems growing up, and you'll learn more about that later. And it really does kind of play a big part in the storyline, but let's put that aside. Okay, so you have the scientist and her husband, and she's working on like cloning research and stuff like that. And then you hear about her separating from her husband, and this is just wild. So she's separated from her husband, and her husband already found someone new. And then you find out the new person is actually a clone of her. So that's just freaking crazy. You know, they do have marital issues and disagreements that they went through, and apparently he figured out that they can't work it out. So he makes a clone of her, using technology or using research that she has done and materials that she has. So he's like stealing from her too. Anyway, so he makes a clone of her, but tweaks things that he did not like. So this guy is fucked up. The whole story though starts in the beginning where the clone actually accidentally, I don't know if it's an accident, but accidentally kills the husband. And so she calls the main scientist, the real person, right? And is like, help. So the whole book is them helping out through this fiasco. There's a couple things that actually comes up again in the later books. So there's a lot of issues they deal with, but it's just a question of, if you're with a person and you want to change all these things, do you actually love this person? So there's that to think about. But in the end, there's just a couple of things that happened where I was like, this is not a good idea. Why didn't you guys think these through? And it's just stuff that could have been avoided. In the end, everything wrapped up pretty okay for them, but I was just like, this is a really weird ending. I can't get on board with it. It's a really good concept. The book, you know, you have a clone, you're cheating on someone, but you're cheating on the clone of the person you were with. So it was interesting to think about, but it was kind of a slow paced book. Like a lot of the book, they were just like working on clones and stuff like that. So it wasn't really, it was okay. So the next book I want to talk about is For You and No One Else by Ronnie Lauren. I actually have 2 of her other books, the first 2 books in this series, and I never read it, but I heard really, really good things about it. So I was hoping that I would like this one because the main character's name is Eliza. We have 2 characters that are like kind of in close proximity. We have Eliza, who is what is she? She is a therapist, but she's also doing a lot of like YouTube therapy, wellness type of coaching things. And then we have her next door neighbor. So they rent out offices in this big building, which happens a lot in a lot of rom-coms that I am reading. But anyways, her next door neighbor or something is this super grumpy guy. His name is Beckham. He actually works in cybersecurity. So he's actually kind of hot with what he does because he's super stealthy and he knows how to get into things and fix stuff. So he works in cybersecurity, but on the side he does, what does he do? He does something on the side as well. Oh, he likes to design video games. So that's cool too. Anyway, so he appears to be kind of grumpy and nonchalant, doesn't really communicate or say hi to Eliza, but I think that's just because he's in his own world. He's not necessarily a bad guy. So they finally meet and talk because on Christmas Day, they're both alone. Is this a Christmas story? No, but it is around Christmas time. So yes, they meet on Christmas because they are both alone in their office, and I guess they need someone to talk to. Eliza has her issues because her parents died before in a car crash, so she's very alone, she's very sad, she's in her feelings. And then Jack, what's his name? And then Beckham is there, and they form this kind of friendship. He tells her off the bat that he's not looking for any serious relationship, so he's off the market. So they form a sort of friendship. He's helping her out with her YouTube channels and stuff like that because she is going on her online dating apps and things, and she goes on this bad date, and that date films her and puts her on blast online, and it looks really bad for her, even though she has every right to say all the things she's saying, but it looks bad. And so she's helping her out with everything. They form a nice friendship. Obviously, you know, as time goes on, their bond is closer, their bond is stronger, and he sees her going on these dates and he's like, I don't like it. Kind of form a friends with benefits type of relationship while she continues to find the one through these dating apps. But yeah, you learn more about their past. You learn why he is off the market, why he is not open for new relationships. That one is a little bit out of left field later on in the book, so I just ran with it. I thought it was sweet. I just feel like the ending was a little bit rushed, but overall I liked it. I liked their relationship together. I liked how open they were and honest with each other. But I've been hearing that not a lot of people like this one compared to the other 2, so I will give the other 2 a try as well. All right, finally, let's get into my physical books. Okay, so, and I guess I'm pretty happy that the books that I did like a lot, I have the copies of. So next is Graceling by Kristen Cashore, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but this is a whole series. I think it is YA fantasy series. This is a whole YA fantasy series. There's multiple books in. I think she recently, or her publishing team recently redid the covers and they look really pretty. I'm not sure which cover I like more, but I bought this a long time ago and I was so excited that I had it on my shelf because I did this as a buddy read with Kahli and Daphne. I'll link their channels down below. But yeah, I had this a long time ago. I just never read it. It is a series, but Kahli said that each book can be read as kind of a standalone, like it's following different people. And I think I can see that happening after this one. After this one, one of the other characters gets followed. But it kind of makes me sad because I want to see where this takes them. Anyway, so Graceling. So in this world, there's like several different realms or kingdoms, maybe 7, maybe more. I'm just throwing out a number that I think. But there's all these different kingdoms and people may be graced. And if you're graced, you have like a super talent or a super ability to do something. And I was joking when we were chatting about this book because I was like, hey, can my super ability be the ability to drink all the milk tea in the world and not gain weight? And I was just kidding because I was like, that's not an ability. But when you read further, you can really have any sort of ability. Like someone is a master juggler or something. So, yes. The main character, I forgot her name already. So bad. Katsa, and the other main character is Poe. Anyways, Katsa's main ability is the ability to fight. Yeah. So I think it's her father or someone who has control of her, the king in her kingdom. I forget. But they use her to be the assassin or like the killer, right? Like, oh, hey, I want you to kill these people because of my political schemes. And then she goes out and harms them. But she's really tired of that. She doesn't want to kill people anymore. Anyways, she is forming like this underground community or group where she's actually using her abilities for good. And so it starts off the book, she is trying to re-kidnap someone who was kidnapped from another kingdom and bring him back. And this person, the whole book you're trying to figure out why they are trying to kidnap this person. And so it brings her along, it connects her with this other person, Poe, who turns out to be like the prince or whatever of this other kingdom. Let's see. If you're graced, you have like two different eyes, right? That's why you see her eye here. So you can tell a person is graced or not when they're a baby and growing up, and then their eye color changes and you're trying to figure out what they are graced with. But it is cool. Poe, apparently his grace is also fighting too. So they're trying to like, one up each other, train each other, but they're also both trying to figure out why this person was kidnapped, because that person, you'll find out more. I thought it was really fun. I flew by this book. It's actually, it's long, but I think the print is kind of big and wide, so it's not too long, but I read this pretty quickly. I just had to know what happened, and Poe is just the sweetest. He's so sweet. Katsa is actually really mean to him. There are a couple things that happened in this book that I was like, oh shoot, she did not. And poor Poe. That's why I want to see what happens next with them, but I think the other ones are more standalone or follows other people in the same kingdom, same Graceling type of scenario here. But I wish that I found out more about what happened with Katsa and Poe. It's a lot of like, there's a theme in there too about like not fitting other people's standards about relationships, not fitting into that mold, and I like that. But I also wish, certain things happen. Anyway, so I don't want to give too much away. Just know that I did like this book. Thank you for the recommendation. I love this as a buddy read. Okay, this video is getting too long. That means there's gonna be a lot to edit, so I'll try to hurry this along. Next one is House Across the Lake. So this is number 5. On the list for me. So House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is one of my auto-buy authors for, popcorn, mystery, thriller type of books. And so when I saw this was on Book of the Month, I was like, yes, sign me up. I actually bought this as like a Target buy 2 get 1 free, something like that. And so I got 2 copies in the mail. I was like, not again. This did not happen again. Yes, it did. So House Across the Lake, his books are fairly easy to read and really entertaining. Some of them I did not like as much as others, but I do overall tend to enjoy his books, so I'm always buying his books. Thank you for Book of the Month for introducing him to me years ago. I think this book had kind of mixed reviews. Not a lot of people liked it. I'm just kind of like, it was very fast-paced and very enjoyable, but the twists and turns just got out of hand, out of hand. There was a twist here, 3 chapters later, there's another twist, things are happening. I'm always guessing what happened, and I think I guessed 1 twist out of like 10 twists. So there's a lot going on in this book. If you don't recall, there was a movie on Netflix starring Kristen Bell, making fun of these types of tropes. And so this book did do it a little bit differently. So you have this woman, you have this big lake, right? And in this big lake, I forgot what the lake is called, but around this big lake, you have 5 houses, 2 on this side, 3 on this side. And the main character lives on the side with, I think, 3 houses, whatever. She's on one of the sides, right? And she recently went through something. Her husband died. He actually died in the lake. And so her mom thought it would be a good idea if she just spent some time at the lake. Crazy moms, But yeah, so she's spending time at this lake. She's very depressed, going through the death of her husband, and she's drinking alcohol, right? The thing that I liked about this book is that a lot of other books with this trope, they're very drunk, they're incapacitated, that it's hard to figure out what they see is actually true or not. Riley Sager kept that to a minimal here, and so I like that. That's why I like it. But she, one day in the morning, she saves this woman from drowning in the lake, and so they're like buddy now. They form this sort of relationship, but that person that she saves says some little comments that make it think that she's not safe at home. And so the main character is like, oh, you know, I have a set of binoculars at home here because my dead husband, was a bird watcher. So I'll just pick up these binoculars and spy across the lake to the house. And so she's looking at the house, and she sees the woman that she saved acting weird, and the husband acting suspicious. It looks like she's afraid of the husband. So she's like, something's going on. I think she's gonna get murdered, right? So that's classic. But there's a lot of things going in this book because you learn more of the history of the lake and things about souls and stuff like that. I'm not gonna give too much away, but just know it is wild. I may do like a wrap-up video about Riley Sager's books in general. Maybe I'll talk more about that, but just right off the bat, like in the first 2 or 3 chapters, it gets you really hooked in because I don't know if I can say too much, but just read the first few chapters and guaranteed you will be hooked in. Just know that what you think is happening is not happening, and in the end, shit still gets wild in the last chapters or so. But yeah, this is still not my favorite Riley Sager book. My favorite one is still Survive the Night, which I heard a lot of people did not like too. I don't know why. I just love that one, and I like Home Before Dark. Those are two of my favorites. This is up there, maybe like the third one that I like. He just has so many books, but yeah, I still like this one. Okay, so next one is Upgrade by Blake Crouch. This one I did enjoy. I did read through it pretty quickly. It's just, I think I hyped it up so much in my head. I loved Recursion. I was coming off of that high, and I was like, Blake Crouch, you cannot do me wrong. You write everything, and I will love it. And so I had high expectations for this book, and I don't think it met those expectations, but I still enjoyed it. So we have this main guy who is part of the police force or whatever. They have this new group called GPA, Gene Protection Agency, because this takes place farther in the future. I don't know when it takes place, but it's in the future because now they have some sort of science or technology to alter your genome. And so now, because you can do that, there's a lot of regulations that has to happen. So they have this Gene Protection Agency. They have to have some people on their radar, some scientists, geneticists and stuff like that, to make sure they're not doing shady ass shit. So in the beginning, this main guy, I don't even remember his name anymore. That is how bad my memory is. So the main guy is named Logan Ramsey. He has his family, he has his wife, his daughter, and things like that, but he also has this job that is pretty dangerous. And so they're breaking down this, they're trying to get more information about this shady person or something like that. They're trying to get more information about if someone is using this incorrectly. So they break down this house, turns out no one's there, but there's an explosion. And after that explosion, he gets this, his mind is sharper. He's beating his daughter in chess, which he never did before. His memory is better, things like that, right? And so he's trying to figure out what exactly happened, and why. So he does figure out what happened. The question is the why of it. Why is this happening to him? And what that means for humanity. Is it better that he has this quote unquote upgrade, or is it going to be detrimental to the world? And so he is on one side of that debate, that argument, and another person that he's talking to, which I won't spoil, is on another part of that argument. So he's trying to figure out what to do, and in the end, and the ending. So a couple things I had with this. The reason why I liked Blake Crouch's book is that is a lot of family, a lot of heart, a lot of love to it. The first book he had, he's just trying to go. The first book that Blake Crouch wrote, the main character was just trying to get back to his wife. The second book that he wrote, Recursion, actually, scratch that. It's not the first or second book that he wrote. It's the first and second book that I read. Sorry. So the second book that I read from him, main character is also trying to get back to his lover as well. I like that it's a mix of science fiction and romance, things like that. This book did not have a lot of it, which is just me. So you might still really enjoy this book. But for me, it wasn't a lot of that family heart to it. There's a lot of family issues with him and like, you know, things like that, but not his wife and his daughter. That you'll see what happens, but in the end there is some sort of things like that, but I think it's just like it touched up on it a little bit. The other thing that I had an issue with is for the longest time he's fighting for this thing that he believes in, and I think it just flipped the switch a little bit at the end. But in general, I think it just had a good theme or a good belief about humanity and compassion, about what you really need to continue on as a species and to save the earth. But I guess talking about it, I still really liked it. It just, I didn't get the same feeling as I did with Recursion, which blew my mind. But yeah, so this is Upgrade. What is next? Upgrade. Oh, next is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. And so this is not the first book that I read from Catherine Center. This is maybe the third book that I read from her, and I've enjoyed all of her books. And so I don't know why I haven't been picking up her other books. But this one is a recent Book of the Month pick. I actually got my copy from NetGalley, so thank you so much. We have the main character who is named Hannah Brooks, and she is a top executive protection agent, aka the Bodyguard. She has a boyfriend, or had a boyfriend. They broke up. He's actually a big douche. But they're a part of this whole agency that is transferred out to different situations. Whoever needs it, whoever needs to hire a bodyguard. So there's a lot of different situations, but they're housed in Texas, and the next bodyguard assignment that she has is with this super famous movie star. He's supposed to be a super famous movie star called Jack Stapleton. I actually Googled him to see if he was real, but he's not. The only Jack Stapleton I saw was like this internal medicine doctor in Pennsylvania or something. But so he's a big movie star. He's coming back to Texas. Something actually happened to him and he stopped acting, but he's coming back to Texas because his mother is sick and he wants to take care of her. So he doesn't want his family to know that he has a bodyguard because he doesn't want them to be worried about her. So he has this brilliant idea, of course, you know, how about you're not my bodyguard? How about you're my girlfriend instead? And so they're like in this fake relationship, fake dating. And I love those types of storylines, of course. But they're just really sweet. They get to know each other, his family. They get to know her story too. The side characters are like low-key, super funny. And I loved it. I think it took me a little while to get into their chemistry and their relationship, but once it got going, I loved it. Something happened at the end that was a little bit scary, and I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. You gotta be kidding me. But it was actually super sweet. Yeah, so I really liked it. I think I'm gonna check out her backlist books too, because I generally have liked a lot of her romance books. I read Things You Save in Fire and How to Walk Away. I read those books a long time ago, like years ago when I was in Fresno, so I really liked it. I only got a couple more, so bear with me. This is a really long wrap up, but next one is We Were Dreamers by Simi Liu. So I talked about this before already, so I won't go into depth about it. I'll link like my review down below. But this is his memoir biography type of thing. He had a lot to say. You know, he's pretty young. People are like, why are you writing a memoir already since you're so young? But I think he just had a lot to say. And I think he had a good message about like family and things like that. So a lot of the book, maybe like the first third or whatever, is actually about his family and their start in China, moving to Canada. And then we get into his upbringing, about how he is pushed to always be the best, getting into all the best schools in Toronto, but he was not actually a good worker sometimes. So he had some of the struggles. He focused on being most popular. He gets into that a lot. So It was pretty funny. And then he gets into how he didn't really like his job and he got into acting, his struggles there, but he kept working at it. And so we were dreamers. Very, very good book. I loved it. My sister is listening to the audiobook right now. I listened to it in the audiobook too, and I think I liked it a lot because of the way he read it, his jokes, you know, he delivered all his jokes very nicely. I do know Tatiana from Reading with Tatiana didn't like it, didn't like some of the parts that he inputted because it didn't read well as print, but I think as an audiobook it was pretty nice. But yeah, it just, you know, the whole concept of we were dreamers is just like keep dreaming, keep reaching for what you want in life, not just with him but for his family too, trying all that they can to move to Canada to have a better life. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much that it might be one of those few memoirs that I might reread. But yeah, so that was a good one. Number 1 on my list, the best book that I think I read this past month, is Morning Star by Pierce Brown. So this is number 3 in the Red Rising series. It was a trilogy first, and then he's starting to write more books afterwards. So that's not done yet. So this is, it's probably like a big saga, but the trilogy is like the first 3 books. There's Red Rising, there's Golden Sun, and then there's Morning Star. I started the series a long time ago, sometime last year. I don't know why I stalled out on Morning Star, but I finally finished it this month and it was great. When I got back into it, I was like, I forgot how violent this book or this series is, and I love it. It's just so violent and there's so many twists. You can't really believe everything that Pierce Brown says because the next chapter or the next book will be completely different. But in this book, I feel like, so this is a wrap up. If you've never heard of Red Rising series, it's like a dystopian book. At first I thought it was a YA dystopian book, but it's very adult and it's actually in the adult section, so my bad. But you have this guy named Darrow and his wife Io. And this is talking about Red Rising. I'm not going to go through all the books because I don't want to spoil it for you. But it is set on Mars, and this is way in the future where like Earth or whatever is inhabitable, and they're in Mars. There's different classes of people, and the Reds are the people that are kind of in the bottom, and they're below Mars mining it for different materials, helium and stuff like that, that is required for living. And so they're doing that for years, decades, I don't know. But one day his wife Io was like, there's more to life than this. Let me bring you up to the surface. And then Darrow actually sees that there's a whole world already. Oh, and they're doing this because Mars, they're trying to make it a better place to be able to live on, right? And so the Reds, they're like under the surface of Mars doing all this mining and stuff like that. But one day when Darrow is brought to the surface, he sees that Mars is actually a pretty good place to be living on already. People are able to live in the surface. They're going about their daily lives. So Darrow's like, what the fuck, right? Why are we doing all these things for them? We're basically slaves. And that's what it is. And so once he figures that out, he joins a group of friends to try to infiltrate the higher ranks. The highest is like the golds. They're like super powerful, like strength-wise as well. So he's trying to, the first book is him trying to infiltrate them and trying to break the hierarchy and stuff like that, right? And so it's just a wild ride on this 3 books. The last book, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of like missions and violence and backstabbing, redemption arcs. I loved it. The way the series ended was fantastic. And so now I'm trying to figure out if I need to continue on the series and have a pause, because the third book in the I don't know, there's the next book that's coming out this year, but the second book is coming out who knows when. So I don't know if I want to wait until everything is, you know, out so I can binge it all, because I'm really bad at stopping and restarting. But this is a series that I really love, that I might even buy multiple copies of. So I might even buy the hardcovers. I might be spending a lot of money later on in life. That's what I am saying. But yeah. So that is book number 1. That's my favorite of the month. And overall, it seemed like a kind of mediocre month. But now that I'm talking about it, there are a lot of books in there that I was excited about, but a lot of duds too, so that's okay. Anyways, thank you so much again for watching my video. I am catching up with a lot of people's July wrap-ups, so thank you so much for that. Yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.